Okay, let's take off again where we left. So I had to eat something. Where are we here? The most beautiful thing, I'm just going to start here, is to live on the edges. We already said that anyway. At the limit of her own power of being affected, on the condition that this be the joyful limit, since there is the limit of joy and the limit of sadness. But everything which exceeds your power of being affected is ugly. Relatively ugly. What's good for flies is not inevitably good for you. There's no longer an abstract notion. There isn't any formula which is good for man in general. What counts is what your power is for you. Lawrence said a directly Spinoza's thing, an intensity which exceeds your power of being affected is bad. It's inevitable. A blue that is too intense for my eyes will not make me say it's beautiful. It will perhaps be beautiful for someone else. There's good for all, you tell me. Yes, because the powers of being affected are combined. Because the powers of being affected are combined. To assume that there was a power of being affected which defined the power of being affected of the whole universe is quite possible, since all relations are combined to infinity. Let's say that again. To assume that there was a power of being affected which defined the power of being affected of the whole universe, which defined the power, is quite possible, since all relations are combined to infinity, but not in just any order. My relation doesn't combine with that of arsenic. But what can this do? Obviously it does a lot to me, but at this moment the parts of my body enter again into a new relation which is combined with that of the arsenic. It's necessary to know in which order the relations are combined, but if we knew in what order the relations of the whole universe are combined, we could define a power of being affected of the whole universe, which would be the cosmos, the world insofar as its body or soul. At this moment, the whole world is only one single body, following the order of relations which are combined. At this moment, you have, to speak precisely, a universal power of being affected, God, who is the whole universe insofar as he is its cause, has by nature a universal power of being affected. It's useless to say that he's in the process of using the idea of God in a strange manner. Sorry guys. You undergo a joy. You feel that this joy concerns you, that it concerns something important regarding your principal relations, your characteristic relations. Here then it must serve you as a springboard. you form the notion idea in what do the body which affects me and my own body agree? In what do the soul which affects me and my own soul agree from the point of view of the composition of their relations and no longer from the point of view of their chance encounters? You do the opposite operation from what is generally done. Generally, people tend to summarize their unhappiness. This is where neurosis or depression begins. When we set out to figure the totals, oh shit, there's this and there's that, Spinoza proposes the opposite. Instead of summarizing of our sadnesses, taking a local point of departure on a joy, on the condition that we feel that it truly concerns us. On that point, that's a good one. Makes you feel so stupid, right? On that point, one forms the common notion. On that point, one tries to win locally to open up this joy. It's the labor of life. One tries to diminish the respective share of sadness in relation to the respective share of joy, and one attempts the following tremendous coup. One is sufficiently assured of common notions which refer to relations of agreement between such and such body and my own. One will attempt then to apply the same method of sadness, but one cannot do it on the basis of sadness. That is to say, one will attempt to form common notions by which one will arrive at a comprehension of the vital manner in which such and such body disagrees and no longer agrees. I'm going to read that again. One will attempt then to apply the same method to sadness, let's start from back there. One tries to diminish the respective share of sadness in relation to respective share of joy. We attempt the following coup. One is sufficiently assured of common notions which refer to relations of agreement. Common notions which refer relations of agreement between such and such a body and my own. One will attempt then to apply the same method to sadness, but one cannot do it on the basis of sadness. That is to say, one will attempt to form common notions by which one will arrive at comprehension of the vital manner in which such and such body disagrees and no longer agrees. That becomes no longer a continuous variation. That becomes a bell curve. Oh, Jesus, now we have to think about this. Bell curve. No longer agrees. I'm just going to leave that for you guys. Now I've got all this phlegm in my throat after eating. Sorry about this. You leave joyful passions the increase in the power of acting. You make use of them to form common notions of a first type. The notion of what there was in common between the body which affected me with joy and my own body, you open up to a maximum, your living common notions, and you descend once again towards sadness, this time with common notions that you form in order to comprehend in what way such a body disagrees with your own, such a soul disagrees with your own. Open up to a maximum your living common notions. You open up to a maximum your living common notions and you descend once again. It is what it is. Gonna have that up and down. Anyway, at this moment you can already say that you are within the adequate idea, since in effect you have passed into the knowledge of causes. You can already say that you are within philosophy. One single thing counts, the way of living. One single thing counts, the meditation on life, and far from being a meditation on death, it's rather the operation which consists in making death only finally affect the proportion that is relatively the smallest in me, living it as a bad encounter. It's rather the operation that consists in making death only finally affect the proportion that is relatively... okay, yeah. Right. Proportion is really small, that is living it as a bad encounter. Okay. I'm going to keep reading. It's simply well known that to the extent that a body is tired, the probabilities of bad encounters increase. Yeah. That's one for my sleep ebook. The extent that a body is tired, the probabilities of bad encounters increase. Okay. Got to remember that. I'm almost finished my sleep ebook. It's a common notion of disagreement. As long as I'm young, death is truly something which comes from outside. It's truly an extrinsic accident, except in the case of an internal malady. Whatever. There is no common notion. On the other hand, it's true that when a body ages, its power of acting diminishes. I can no longer do what I could still do yesterday. This fascinates me in aging. This kind of diminution of the power of acting. What is a clown, vitally speaking? It's precisely the type that does not accept aging. He doesn't know how to age quickly enough. It's not necessary to age too quickly, because there's also another way of being a clown, acting the old man. The more one ages, the less one wants to have bad encounters. But when one is young, one leaps into the risk of bad encounter. The type which, to the extent that his power of acting diminishes as a function of aging, his power of being affected varies, doesn't do it, continues to act the young man, is fascinating. It's very sad. There's a fascinating passage in one of Fitzgerald's novels, the water ski episode in Tender in the Night. There are 10 pages of total beauty on not knowing how to age. You know, the spectacles which are not uncomfortable for the spectators themselves. Wouldn't mind reading that. Knowing how to age is arriving at the moment when the common notions must make you comprehend in what way things and other bodies disagree with your own. Yes, inevitably it will be necessary to find a new grace which will be that of your age. Above all, not clinging to youth. It's a kind of wisdom. It's not the good health which makes one say, live life as you please. It's no longer the will to cling to life. Spinoza knew admirably well how to die, but he knew very well what he was capable of. He knew how to say, piss off, to the other philosophers. I think we know someone else like that. Leibniz came to him to steal bits of manuscript in order to say afterward that they were his own. Fuck you, Leibniz. There are very curious stories about this. He was a dangerous man, Leibniz. I end by saying that at this second level one attains the notion idea where relations are combined, and once again this is not abstract, since I've tried to say that it is extraordinarily vital enterprise. Fuck no. Right, where were we? Sorry. One has left the passions behind. One has acquired formal possessions of the power of acting. The formation of notions which are not abstract ideas, which are literally rules of life, gives me possession of the power of acting. The common notions are the second kind of knowledge, connaissance. In order to understand the third, it's necessary already to understand the second. Yeah, well, you're above paragraph. Got me a bit. Anyway, only Spinoza has entered into the third kind. Yeah, I don't know about that, but above the common notions. You've noticed that while the common notions are not abstract, they are collective. They always refer to a multiplicity, but they are no less individual for that. They are the ways in which such and such bodies agree. At the limit, they are the ways in which all bodies agree. But at the moment, it's the whole world which is an individuality. Thus, the common notions are always individual. Wait, what just happened there? That just took a turn. There are the... What the fuck? Alright, let me read that again. The common notions are the second kind of knowledge. In order to understand the third, it's necessarily... Yeah, blah, blah, blah. Okay, you've noticed that while the common notions are not abstract, they are collective. They always refer to multiplicity, but they are no less individual for that. They are the ways in which such and such bodies agree. At the limit, they are the ways in which all bodies agree, but at the moment, it's the whole world which is an individuality. Thus, the common notions are always individual. Oh yeah, I get it now. Alright, beyond even the composition of relations, beyond the internal agreements which define the common notions, there are the singular essences. What's the difference? Okay. It would be necessary to say that at the limit, the relation and relations which characterize me, express my singular essence. But nevertheless, it's not the same thing. Why? Because the relation which characterizes me, what I'm saying here is not entirely in the text, but it's practically there. Because the relation which characterizes me, the common notions, or the relations which characterize me, still concern the extensive parts of my body. My body is composed of an infinity of parts extended to the infinite, I jumped a line. My body is composed of an infinity of parts extended to the infinite, and these parts enter into such and such relations which correspond to my essence, but are not confused with my essence, for the relations which characterize me are still rules under which are associated, in movement and at rest, the extended parts of my body. Oh. Whereas, I want to read that again. extended parts of my body. Whereas the singular essence is a degree of power, puissance. That is to say, these are my thresholds of intensity, or the parameters that I mentioned earlier. Your buffer parameters. And when you take a psychedelic, you are doing indeed a hack on yourself, which is called buffer overflow, and it can be good and bad. Between the lowest and the highest, between my birth and my death, these are my intensive thresholds. What Spinoza calls singular essence, it seems to me, is an intensive quality. As if each one of us were defined by a kind of complex of intensities, which refers to her essence, and also of relations which regulate the extended parts, the extensive parts. So that when I have knowledge, connaissance of notions, that is to say of relations of movement and rest which regulate the agreement or disagreement of bodies from the point of view of their extended parts, from the point of view of their extension, I don't yet have full possession of my essence to the extent that it is intensity. Ugh. Man, this is some tongue-twisting stuff. So that when I have knowledge of notions, that is to say of relations of movement and rest which regulate agreement or disagreement of bodies from the point of view of their extended parts, from the point of view of their extensions, I don't yet have full possession of my essence to the extent that it is intensity. Yes, okay, I got it. And God, what's that? When Spinoza defines God as absolutely infinite power, puissance, he expresses himself well. All the terms that he explicitly employs, degree, which in Latin is gradus, however you pronounce that, refers to a long tradition in medieval philosophy. Gradus is the intensive quantity in opposition to or differing from the extensive parts. Thus it would be necessary to conceive the singular essence of each one as this kind of intensity, or limit of intensity. The singular essence of each one. It's singular because whether it be our community of genera or species, we are all human, for example, yet none of us has the same threshold. Okay. I think I captured that one. How are you guys going? Comment below. I don't know how to do a screencast on live. Otherwise I'd be doing this live. Wouldn't that be confusing? We'd have all your comments in here while I'm reading. I don't think any of us would understand anything at the end. Or maybe the opposite. Maybe we understand better. I don't know. What is this? Right, so this is them talking about it now. Geez, that was lackluster, the end there. If that's the end, I mean, it really is a from below view, isn't it? Because I could easily reverse the whole script, right, and talk from the essence first. And in my feeling, I think geez, I really want to now. I kind of want to do like a quip version of this and reverse it. And you know how they added more at the beginning on the Affectus Affectio idea level, the shallow level, I would reverse it. That's very doable because it's only 12 pages. So that'd be a reasonable idea. This is why I need you guys to donate, because I mean this sort of thing takes time if I was to do something like that. But I really think I could. Should we read this, guys? I don't know if we should even read this. It's gonna be them two talking. Because it said here at the start it's like a wife and husband team or something. Emily and Julian Deleuze. Oh, who's Gilly then? Oh, Gilly's Deleuze. So another one. So there's three of them. Emily, Julian, and Gilly's Deleuze. So they've made transcripts on this Spinoza guy. And now Gillies is talking here at the end. Let's just have a little look. Intervention of Comtesse. Oh, here we go, we can read this. As for the problem of the reasonable man and the insane man, Gillies will respond this. What distinguishes the insane person and the reasonable one according to Spinoza? And conversely, at the same time, there is what doesn't distinguish them. From which point of view can they not be distinguished? From which point of view do they have to be distinguished? I would say for my reading that Spinoza's response is very rigorous. If I summarize Spinoza's response, it seems to me that this summary would be this. From a certain point of view, geez, I wish you would tell me which, there is no reason to make a distinction between the reasonable man and the insane person. From another point of view, there is reason to make a distinction. Firstly, from the point of view of power, there is no reason to introduce a distinction between the reasonable man and the insane man. What does that mean? Does that mean that they have the same power? No. No, it doesn't. It means that they have the same power, but it means that each one, as much as there is in him, realizes or exercises his power. Each one, as much as there is in him, endeavors to persevere in his being. Therefore, from the point of view of power, insofar as each according to the natural right endeavors of persevere in his being, exercise his power. You see, I always put effort between brackets. It is not that he tries to persevere in any way. He perseveres in his being as much as there is in him. That is why I do not like the idea of conatus, the idea of effort, which does not translate Spinoza's thought, because what it calls an effort to persevere in being is the fact that I exercise my power at each moment as much as there is in me. It is not an effort, but from the point of view of power, therefore I cannot at all say what each one is worth, because each one would have the same power. In effect, the power of the insane man is not the same as that of the reasonable man, but what there is in common between the two is that whatever the power, each exercises his own. Therefore, from the point of view, I would not say that the reasonable man is better than the insane one. And they haven't defined either, by the way, what they mean by reasonable or insane. I cannot have no way of saying that. Each has a power, each exercises as much power as there is in him. I really don't like this answer, anyway. It is, but I get it, I see what he's saying. It is natural right, it is world of nature. From this point of view, I could not establish any difference in quality between the reasonable man and the insane one. I could. I would get into the real and the unreal and illusion and stuff like that if I was going to talk about it. Probably even I'd mention archons and lots of other things. I think there's many more things you could say. You could even talk about it on a creation level. Is the insane man creating anything? You know what I mean? Anyway, each to his own. But from another point of view, I know very well that the reasonable man is better than the insane one. All right, let's see what he says. Better, what does that mean? More powerful in the Spinoza sense of the word. Therefore, from his second point of view, I must make, and I do make, a distinction between the reasonable man and the insane man. What is the point of view? My response, according to Spinoza, would be exactly this. From the point of view of power, you have no reason to distinguish the reasonable man and the insane one. But from the other point of view, namely that of the effects, you distinguish the reasonable man and the insane man. From where does this other point of view come? Question mark. You remember that power is always actual. It is always exercised. It is the effects that exercise them. The effects are the exercise of power. What I experience in action or passion, it is which exercises my power at every moment. If the reasonable man and the insane one are distinguished, it is not by means of power. Each one realizes his power is by means of the effects. The effects of the reasonable man are not the same as those of the insane one. Hence, the whole problem of reason will be converted by Spinoza into a special case of the more general problem of the effects. Whole problem of reason. Reason indicates a certain type of effect that is very new. To say that reason is not going to be defined by ideas, of course, it will also be defined by ideas. There is a practical reason that consists in a certain type of effect, in a certain way of being affected, that possesses a very practical problem or of reason. What does it mean to be reasonable at that moment? Inevitably, reason is an ensemble of effects, for the simple reason that it is precisely the forms under which power is exercised in such and such conditions. Therefore, to question that has just been posed by Comtesse, my response is relatively strict. In effect, what difference is there between a reasonable man and the insane one? From a certain point of view, none. That is the point of view of power. From another point of view, enormous difference from the point of view of the effects which exercise power. You cannot assimilate the blind man not seeing and the stone not seeing. You can only make such an assimilation if, at the same time, you pose a kind of pure instianity of the essence, namely, there belongs to an essence only the present, instantaneous affection that is experiences insofar as it... Whoa, tinnitus. Oh, I just got ear ringing. That felt like a depressurization, actually. Interesting. Anyway. Sorry about that. Namely, there belongs to an essence only the present, instantaneous affection that is experiences insofar as it experiences it. Affection that it experiences. The objection here is very, very strong, if indeed I am saying there belongs to my essence only the affection that I experience here and now. Then indeed I am not deprived of anything. If I am blind, I am not deprived of sight. If I am dominated by a basely sensual appetite, I'm not deprived of better love. I'm not deprived of anything. There belongs to my essence indeed only the affection that I experience here and now. Right. Well, I agree with that line. You know, if I'm dominated by a basely sensual appetite, I'm not deprived of better love. It's a good way to summarize it. Guys, I'm getting tired. I'm going to stop this. Maybe we'll read the rest of this, because look, there's quite a lot actually. I just don't know if it's going to help us understand the main reading. Like, obviously it will, but it can make you forget some of the main reading. You know what I mean? So yeah, we might go through it. I might have a little read through it and check first. But yeah, hope you guys liked it. Comment below what you are thinking.